Public Relations, University of Port Harcourt. Welcome, Dr. Sadu. Good to have you on the show.
Good evening to you and good evening to our listeners.
All right. So let's before we get into the meat of our conversation, let's start with autonomy for universities. Some few days ago, should I say last week, or was it 2 weeks ago? Last week, to be precise, the president said that he was going to give autonomy to the universities, financial autonomy. Is that good news? Because I remember in many of our conversations, you and I, even before I came to Nigeria Info, we have been talking, and I know one thing you said has been asking about or asking for has been the autonomy of the universities. Is this good news? Is it bad news? Is it the government trying to hands off the university structure? What is your take on that one? I'd like to hear.
Well, thank you very much. I'm actually confused because I cannot read the mind of the president. And the reason I'm confused is because there is already a law of the Nigerian Reservation since 2004, amended in 2007, the one we call the University Miscellaneous Act. That act had already given autonomy to universities. What has happened since then is that government has not respected that law. And so if the present president wants to respect the operation of that law, that would be good news. But if the intendment of government is to hand off funding of as their own interpretation of autonomy, that would be very bad news for this nation. So it depends on what the president intends to do. And I think I need to just say that many people in this country, including those who are the one we think are well read, people in very high offices in this country, and even the media in Nigeria, do not understand the concept of autonomy in the university.
All right.
The concept of autonomy in the university is not self-financing. It's not revenue yielding. It is allowing the university to be free from the encumbrance of civil service and the involvement of non-university actors in the administration and management of research. That is the meaning of autonomy.
All right.
It is not withdrawal of government funding that means autonomy. So until the president brings the template of what they intend to do with the university, I'm only going to say it could be a blessing, it could be a curse.
All right. Thank you very much for that one. But, he did mention, he said he was going to give financial autonomy, and I think he said some other stuff. I'll look for the article and I'll read it. But let's get to the loan scheme. We've heard several times, and you and I have also talked about it, briefly, peripherally, because we did not have access to the act at the time. But now it's online. And, 50 billion, is it 50 billion a year? Something like that has been earmarked, for kickstart or the kickstarting of the loan scheme in January 2024. However, ASUU is now saying that it should not be a loan, it should be a grant, that it's happened before and it did not work. And there is the likelihood that it will happen now and still not work because of, certain major factors. I'm seeing schools like Carl, that's University of Calabar, increase school fees or tuition fees by 100%. Your school is in the second semester now, so by next year we would know whether University of Port Harcourt would also increase tuition fees. But many other federal universities have increased, and they say it is because of the economic realities. Even local institutions in the states, some local tertiary institutions have increased, and some are saying, it is to meet up. And if it is to meet up, one would wonder the amount of people who will be seeking the loan scheme. Would it not be too much for the government to handle? And how do we how do we structure it? A lot of questions. So what do you make of this loan scheme? Do you agree it should be a grant? Government gives them a one-time thing and everybody forgets, or should we make the bursary system like Nance is calling for, make it even more prominent now, so students can have something to assist them while they're in school?
Well, the operation of the loan scheme, in my view, and the view of many other people who truly understand the workings of the university system, is actually a way government is trying to take off the hands from funding the university. But the confusion that is there is, when you want to give loan, we do not know how much each of those students will get. So we only speculate.
Okay.
When they started to talk about education, they said 50 billion. But I think in the proposed budget for 2024, I heard, I hope I'm correct, 500 billion. Even if it is 500 billion, it's still going to be a drop in the ocean.
Okay.
Because if we're going to operate with 50 billion and you give 200,000 each, then you will just need only 27,500 students will get it. So if you reduce it to 200,000, then they will just have 55,000 students getting it. So if by any stretch of imagination, to increase the money to 500 billion at 100,000 students, you can only give to 550,000 students. And of course, you know that what we're talking about cuts across the levels, different tertiary levels.
Yeah.
It's for the university, for the polytechnic, for the colleges of education, and all that. So you can imagine that the government of Nigeria is expecting that there will be less than 1 million students, 1 million young Nigerians in all the higher institutions in Nigeria in every year. That is going to be, it's not going to be possible. It's not going to be possible. So, I think that what government just wants to do is to watch whether Nigerians actually understand what is happening. They can't solve the federal university, then politicians will buy it up. Because the operations of the public university is actually difficult for private universities to charge a exorbitant fee and have subscription. So when they do this, they will force the universities to reduce their subscription for intake, and parents will have no other alternative than to seek whatever means. But when you put this in place, the state of our economy, you will know that government has not thought this through. Because the more when you increase school fees and parents are not earning, the minimum wage in Nigeria is 30,000 naira. And government has said by February or so next year, there will be a new minimum wage in place. I don't know the magic that government is going to do to pay minimum wage of up to 150,000 to now allow parents to save money to take care of their children. So we're going to have a social crisis, and that crisis is going to deepen with every year moving on from there, because if you have given if you have budgeted 500 billion for 1 year and you cannot take care of 600,000 students, remember that those same students will need another funding for the next year, while a new set of people will join them. So I think it's quite chaotic, and I think Nigerians, including the media, they have not given it enough thought to take the government to task and say, look, you're doing this, and you come to the table, and let's run this by the numbers and see what is going to happen to Nigeria.
So do you think grants, because ASUU is saying let's do grants rather.
The beauty of grants is that you are recognizing that you need to train your youth. If the government is not training youth in this country, the government has no other business in this country. As a matter of fact, how do you explain And I don't want to believe, even though I have read it, that 1,400 people went for conference that the president got. How do you explain that a country where you cannot fund education, that less number of people are going out? Even when people say, they didn't go with their money, who does that? Who goes out to work for government on its own account? So, that is a recognition that parents' earning power is not enough to train their children. And government owes the society a responsibility to ensure that the youth are empowered or trained. Because the disaster of not doing that would too much.
Okay. Now let's look at this responsibility you've talked about, the responsibility of training young people. These same young people, when trained, carry the knowledge outside the country, like we saw today on several front pages. About 150,000 applications have already been, worked on by the United States Embassy. Only the United States Embassy, 150,000 applications to leave Nigeria, while 30,000 more applications for people who want to study in the United States. So people are getting this knowledge and they are leaving the shore. So maybe the government is saying, you know what, if you're going to get the knowledge and leave, then maybe you should pay for it yourself.
Labor is a commodity. It goes to where it's appreciated. It takes extra commitment and patriotism to stay in a country where you're underpaid. Have you seen the publication that is going on? Somebody, a government official, goes out and is entitled to $700. Some of them more than $1,000 as extra code a night. How much is a professor pay? A professor is less than $300. So what are you talking about? So when if government wants to retain people in this country, they should pay living wages to people. They should pay living wages to people. So, as a matter of fact, in our university system, in the 70s and 80s, we had people from all over the world coming to teach them. To teach in Nigeria.
All right.
And that's when they started to underpay lecturers.
Doc,
think you would do that.
I would have to pause you now. We've got a commercial break. I'm really sorry. We won't come back. We'll continue that thought of yours, please. Just stay tuned. 29 minutes to the top of the hour. You're still listening to Hard Facts in 92.3 Nigeria Info. I am Kaladako Rubatibor, and I've got with me as guest a lecturer at the University of Port Harcourt, Dr. Austen Sadu, former ASUU chairman, Uniport chapter, and lecturer at the Department of Advertising and Public Relations, formerly Linguistics and Communication. I don't know. I think it's still, but from next year, it will no longer be Linguistics and Communication. All right. That being said, welcome back on the show. It's good to have you, Doc. And let's go.
Thank you very much.
All right. So before we went for that break, you were trying to, explain whether, the loan scheme, or rather, you were trying to explain whether grant is better than, the loan scheme. And you were saying grant will give, you're giving us the advantages. Can we get back to hearing that, please?
Yes, the point I was making is that any nation that doesn't prioritize education is doomed to fail.
Okay.
And what has happened to Nigeria in the last 35 years is due mainly to abdication of the responsibility of fund education by the government of Nigeria. So if you have parents who are unable to put food on their table for their children, and you are including school fees and putting them under bondage by means of education loan, where are they going to raise money to pay back that thing? So if you don't have an economically viable nation, you are still at the developmental level coming up. All you need to do is to make education a social good, so that you massively develop your people and empower them to be productive. Once they are productive and they are tax paying in the system, you regenerate the economy, you rebuild your nation. And the state of income that parents are getting, Nigerian workers are getting today, cannot support this drive for commercialization of education. Because parents are earning minimum wage of 30,000 naira, and a bag of rice is 45,000, 50,000 naira. So if you were going to commit your salary to buying a bag of rice, it means nothing. And these same people will tell us of how education is not free, how it is done overseas. If you go to the market in UK with $20 or 20 pounds in the UK, you will be shocked at how much you can get. And how much is an hour pay in UK? An hour pay in UK is 10 pounds. So if you work for 2 hours, you can almost feed your family for 2 weeks. In that same place, somebody who is on a paying workers in Nigeria is going to give you an example of living in UK while he's not paying the rent, he's not paying the wage that is being paid in UK. So the point is that what government says they cannot subsidize education by means of giving grants, and they want to burden the parents with loan. It is a crisis that nobody can imagine how it will be resolved.
All right.
So then you can compare to give a grant is far better than to put them under the burden of loan. By the way, you can hear that America is even doing loan forgiveness for those who took loan. In a nation that is functional, then how do you implement that in a dysfunctional economy like Nigeria?
Now, I'd like to take us back to how we started. I know you're very busy, so I'll just ask you one final question and then we'll let you go. And that question has got to do with financial autonomy again. So I've seen the article I read from last week. It was from a week ago, where the president promised that, the federal government was, trying to create a structure, a template that will reintroduce the policy of full autonomy for universities. Now, according to the article, Tinubu said the idea would naturally transfer the responsibility of performance directly to the individual institutions. I do not know what that means. I guess you will be able to explain better. He said the new policy direction was premised on the conviction that university autonomy would provide the platform for the institutions to develop at the pace set by their councils and senates rather than being bogged down by external bottlenecks or red tape. He assured the people that the current administration would formulate sustainable policies that would outlive it.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm listening.
What does black mean? It's as a color. Have you seen black?
Maybe the black is black.
So,
Yeah.
there is nothing like financial autonomy. Autonomy is autonomy, and it's all inclusive, it's all inclusive. What government is trying to do is simply to tell parents that the amount of money that is required to support their children for education, they should be the one paying it. That's what it means. So they are saying that we're not going to make any budget for the university. We're not going to give any subvention to the university. The university should charge money from students and use the money to run the university. What that simply means is that we're going to look at what does it cost to train a professor, to train a student, and you charge that fee, so the students will get what is required to be trained. Then you can now think of including salary the government is paying, as small as it is. They do not want to take it, so they want to say, look, generate money from students' fees and use it to pay salary. And that is the beginning of bloom, not just for education, for the entire nation. Because what these people are actually trying to do is to free up the little money they are giving to the university so they can use it for themselves and their children.
Is this not a blessing in disguise? If the universities become slightly expensive, it means it would not be as crowded as it is. And so, I mean, the lecturers would not be overworked. There will be enough materials to go around. The infrastructure will not be overwhelmed. I mean, is this not a blessing in disguise?
Where has the policy of exclusion been a direction, a policy direction for any government? You are talking of excluding Nigerian students from having access to the university. And you want to develop? Oh, come on. We don't have exclusion as a policy that will drive development. We're looking for how to increase it so that a lot of people can have access. And to make it, to exclude some people from having access to education is something that nobody should think about. So it's never going to be taken in this guy. And I can tell you that what it means is that when parents are unable to pay, they will withdraw their children from school. Now, these politicians will buy up those properties, convert it to whatever they want to convert it to. And this is how they have always sold national assets to themselves. They have conquered the rest of the economy, the sectors or the economy. They are now intended to destroy the education and take over those properties. I don't think that Nigerian youth should allow this policy to stand.
Right.
Because it is danger that is already seen clearly that we are driving ourselves to the abyss.
All right. So what's the solution for you? As I let you go, what do you think the federal government should do in
government should just think of how to fund the universities and allow the economy to pick up until a point where workers are earning living wage before you think of whatever you can do to increase whatever students are paying. Otherwise, nobody will be able to manage the disaster that is awaiting us.
Would a 200,000 naira bursary for students solve the problem? Because NANS is asking for 200,000 naira bursary. Will that solve the problem?
It won't solve the problem. 200,000 divided by 2 semesters. As you are going to pay fees from there, you're going to feed, you're going to buy books, you are going to do whatever you do as a student. It's not going to be possible.
All right, then.
It's not going to be possible.
All right. Thank you very much for your time. I should let you get back to your business, but I really do appreciate giving us your time and explaining these issues to us.
Thank you very much.
All right, then, Dr. Austen Sadu there. All right, it's your turn to join the conversation. There is some sort of confusion, I should say, in the university sector or the tertiary education sector. There is some level of confusion, and I'm wondering, what do you think? Now, my guest has said that he's suspecting that the government wants to hands off, their funding, their financing of universities or tertiary educational institutions across the country, the federal ones. Now, if that is the case, that means the universities, just permit me to use universities, please. The universities would then begin to fund themselves. And guess what? Who are the clients? Who are the customers of the universities? The students, who are our siblings, our children. If that is the case, then that is a problem. But you see, I went back to reading the article from last week where the president, represented by one of the ministers, did say that they want to return full autonomy to the institutions, which means that institutions will have to bear the responsibility of performance. Interesting. 0817-923-0002 and 0817-923-0003. Meanwhile, there was the headline this morning. If you check the front pages, you would see the headline where NANS is asking for 200,000 naira bursary. Will that be the solution? Loan? Will that be the solution? Grant? Will that be the solution? I'm wondering, this is about your thoughts. I'd like to hear from you. Remember, we're live on Facebook. You can drop your comments there. We're live on YouTube. You can drop your comments there. We're active on X. You can drop your comments there. Nigerian for PH is the handle for all three platforms. Or better still, you can use WhatsApp messaging platform and message me right now, 0809 0306 Nathaniel is calling from Bunny Island. Let's take a listen to Nathaniel. Nathaniel, welcome. What is on your mind? Please tell me.
They should just tell us straight that they are going to privatize the whole university in Nigeria.
Is that what you think they want to do? I mean,
that is exactly what I feel.
Okay.
Giving autonomy to the university. I think to say that they have to generate money through the university and pay the lecturers.
Is that such a bad thing? Is that such a bad thing?
Hello?
I'm asking, is that such a bad thing? I mean, not everybody is supposed to go to the university.
When everybody is struggling with the economy.
Okay. All right.
We begin to think how much can each student pay to pay for almost all the activities that take place in the university.
Okay.
It's not going to be very possible at all.
But
students are going to draw.
But don't you think it's going to separate the chaff from the wheat in terms of not everybody is supposed to go to the university, not everybody is supposed to go to a polytechnic. So some people are supposed to be learning handwork, getting a skill set, and maybe we will be able to differentiate. If we get to that point, don't you think so?
And who is supposed to be related to the background?
Nobody's been. So that's the problem.
Choice. Number one choice: if somebody gives you, take from option 1, 2, 3, going to the university, going to learn handwork, and staying at home. Which one do you pick?
I'll take handwork. I tell you what. I mean, look at China. What do you think runs the Chinese economy? It's their population and the ability to use it for labor. So many American companies have got their manufacturing sites in China, in India. So yeah, learning a skill set is not such a bad idea, and maybe that's why we're not producing.
Did you pick handwork at the expense of university? I know you went to university.
I agree, but I'm doing handwork right now. This is not taught in the university.
That would be very terrible to please,
okay.
The government should just rethink.
All right then.
They should have to rethink.
All right.
Let them just go back and think of something better, not this one.
All right then. Thank you, Nathaniel. I've got Mira from Okrika. Mira, welcome on the show. What is on your mind? I'd like to hear from you, please.
Yeah, KDB, good evening.
Good afternoon, whichever one. Welcome on the show.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You see, KDB, I think another word for what the federal government is trying to do is privatizing the education sector.
How do you mean?
Yeah, that's... Hello?
I say, how do you mean? I'm listening to you. What's your reason for saying that?
Yeah, putting in the hands of a lecturer. So, in other words, the university institutions will no longer, the government will cut them out of their their salary scheme, all those their payments, monthly payments. They fund themselves, they will pay themselves, they will keep investing themselves, they do everything themselves. Trust me, Calabar is privatizing the university. They are trying to privatize the tertiary sector. And this is wrong, Calabar. They privatize electricity. We have this problem. They privatize NNPCL, and we're not seeing anything coming out. This is not that I don't want them to privatize the refineries. I don't want them to touch the education sector, Calabar. Do you know what it will mean, Calabar? It will reduce the number of students, Nigerian students that will go to the tertiary level, that will go to the tertiary level, honestly. So many persons will stop at the secondary level because the universities now, the prices will be controlled by the victims of the universities. So if you can't, it just be like a private university now. Trust me, Calabar. So many poor persons in Nigeria cannot afford it. The reason why there are so many graduates is that the ordinary traders.
But Muriel, you agree with me that not everybody in the university is supposed to be in the university, and likewise for polytechnic colleges of education and the other likes. So don't you think that only serious-minded people will go to school? I mean, there will be scholarships, there will be the loan scheme from the government. So anybody who wants to go to school, come take loans from the government. Show us that you're intelligent, show us that you'll be able to, make good use of the money, and you get the money and you go learn, whatever you want to learn.
Trust me, Kalada, when you use the word serious-minded people, it's odd, Kalada.
Okay.
You're trying to reduce out of school students. I think you want to do this to the educational sector. Who is not serious-minded to go to school? It's just a finance, Canada. So you're telling them they should come take loans to finance their education. How much will they take? Do you know that Canada, the amount of money they will be able, these students class first cannot even pay their school fees because their school fees will increase astronomically. Local business will increase it according to their body language, according to their emotions or their feelings. They will tell you they have to power diesel, they have to do this, diesel is expensive, accommodation students cannot afford. The cost of living in the university will be increased. Right. So, not so serious-minded. The poor woman in the market that has been struggling to pay they cannot do it anymore.
All right,
because the universities have become private universities.
Okay. All right, I've got to go. Thank you very much, Miriam from Okrika. Now, I've had two callers, and two of the callers have said this sounds like privatization. Maybe not actually privatization, because the government will still have some kind of control as to who becomes, board members, as to who becomes vice chancellor, all of those other, little details. But the running of the school will be done by the school management. And go make profits for yourself and then come back. But let's get your thoughts. Do you agree it's privatization? Do you see any other solution? We need to talk education today. 08179230002, 08179230003. WhatsApp messages to the number 08090306416. Now this one says, good evening, Mr. KDB. The Nigerian government is trying to tread on a very wrong path. It is a pity that what happened in NSAS will be a tip of an iceberg. Comrade Oibo Prosper. What does NSAS have to do with this conversation? This one says, dear Canada, well, good or bad, we can say by attendance of the COP28, Nigeria by default now has 141 climate experts. For the past 8 years, Nigeria have been attending COP28 is not the first Nigeria have attended, but the question is, what is on ground Nigeria have achieved so far? What would be the achievement? Why were you bringing? That's not my conversation, but thank you very much. I'm moving on. I've got Francis from Transamadi. Francis, welcome on the show. What is on your mind? Please tell me.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think Nigerians are just making things very difficult for government because we don't really know what is going on. Most of the people who have spoken, I don't think they know exactly what's going on in education. Schools are struggling with students paying fees.
All right.
Schools are struggling with students paying fees. Some students have been in school up to their final year, they're not paying a couple of school fees. That's on one end. Now, if government is also going to allow the schools to run it, what are they going to do as government? Schools don't have power. They spend nearly 80% of their internal revenue on power. So how are they going to run the schools if the government is just going to sit there and do nothing about how schools are going to run? Power, water, research, all of those things that government is supposed to provide, are they going to provide it for the school? So it's not just taking your hands off. All right, let's look at both sides of the coin. We have lecturers who are not qualified at all to be lecturers. They are there as well. These are certain issues facing universities. So government on the one hand is frustrated. Students on the one hand are also frustrated.
Okay.
There are students in school as well who are not even meant to be in school. But because their mates are telling them, you have to go to school. You have to go to school, My mates are going to school. My mates are in universities. They are also struggling with their own education as well. If you tell them, go and do something else, they feel like you hate them. You understand? So let's look at these things from both sides of the coin. Government, if you're going to relinquish, what are you going to do as government?
All right. Thank you very much, Francis. I've got to move on. Thank you very much, Ida from Inkoro. Welcome. Let's get what is on your mind. Good afternoon.
When you're talking of education bring all this our presidents. Without education, we won't have presidents, we won't have governors, councillors, chairmen. So I want to plead with the federal government and the state government to take education serious. I know when we are small, if you are in the house, teachers will come and look for you and carry you to school. When they are doing task for Kalata in Inkoro, you see, they go and cut all these farm food and build it very fine. You see the school uniforms, everything will be neat. But I don't see all those things. Before school to school play match, I don't see all those things again. The federal government and the state government should take education serious. Don't give it to any other person. Whatever thing they need, provide for them. We have one in Nigeria. They can go to Uniport, send Commissioner for Education or Minister for Education, and those who are doing our politicians, ministers, find somebody that go to school that is graduate, give him minister. Find somebody that go to school and give him Commissioner of Education so that our school is functioning very well. Go to government secondary schools, you will see the place. I don't know, can't eat there, but before you see there's no machine to cut grass. And labor, when they are going for labor, he said to cut that grass, the grass will be neat. But all those things are not there. The state government and the federal government should take education serious. So without education, we don't have president, we don't have lawyers, we don't have anybody. You can't write.
It's the bedrock of society. It is the bedrock. All right.
They use it by themselves.
All right, Ida, thank you very much. I think what you're trying to say, education is the bedrock. It's the foundation of society. It's where society gets all of its professionals, even the unskilled professionals. All right. That being said, I've got to go for another stop. So when I come back, more conversation. To stay tuned.
Christmas promo at the Edge Hotel for Target in GRA Phase 2 off Tombia.